So, but yes, let's start off with that example. Let's start off with that example, that fact pattern that I just set out for you. So and the same thing with the body. In order, and I'm drawing an analogy between the community, how the decisions, and then the body, the health of the body. I say, in order for your body to be healthy, blood must flow without obstruction. Now, if you develop blood clots, this is not cool because it means your body is fighting against itself, right? It's overreacting by engaging in destructive and inappropriate behavior. And put another way, is out of sync and it's doing too much. So your blood clotting and stuff, it's fighting against itself. Your white blood cells and red blood cells are out of sync. Maybe you're generating too many white blood cells and your immune system is overloaded and overreacting and creating the blood clots. Just giving an example. It's not medical school. So, and the same thing when we're talking about making personal decisions within our community. Because the whole premise of this discussion and analogy is cash flow is like blood flow, right? Without a healthy circulatory system, you get sick. And if blood in your body, if the blood is not flowing properly, all types of problems, amputations, low blood pressure, all kind of stuff. And lack of cash flow, you get sick as well, right? But I'll develop that a little bit more as I go through this discussion here. So when a person would make a decision, okay, I'd rather self-destruct and save a few dollars and try to do it myself versus hiring a qualified individual, right? Because if you want heart surgery, you wouldn't find a mechanic to do that, right? You want to have the best heart surgeon because it affects the outcome and it can have an effect on your life, right? So I think that this thought process is this unconscious, subconscious thought process is something that needs to be addressed. And when you think of this, so you're saying to yourself, I'd rather make less and risk losing my case. And if you thinking about that, you're actually counting money before it even gets into your account. You don't know how much money you have, but you're counting money before it gets into your account. That's how you making a decision that I don't want to pay an attorney a third of my recovery, no matter what it is. And if you get a case and you get $100,000, $200,000, and on your own you're only going to get maybe $5,000 or $10,000, I think the attorney pays for itself. But anyway, when you do that, you increase the risk of not prevailing. And remember the story. I don't know if you heard another lecture of mine where I was in a courtroom in the court lobby, and this one lady came out of the courtroom. She was crying, and she saw me standing there. I think I was waiting for my courtroom to open. It was late opening, so she asked me. I was consulting with another client and so forth like that, and we were trying to get a settlement going. But when I was taking a break there, standing there waiting for the other attorney to come back, this lady comes out of the courtroom, another courtroom, and she was crying. And she walked up to me and she asked me, "Hey, are you an attorney?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Yes, I'm an attorney. What's the problem?" "Well, I was wondering if you could help me because the judge just ruled against me on my case." I said, "Well, what kind of case was it?" It was a corporation. She was a corporation. She said the judge just declared that I was personally responsible for the debts in my corporation. I was like, wow. I said, first of all, you should have come to me before the judge ruled because there's nothing I can do right now, right? Because when I file an appeal for the cases that I've done, and when I deal with these people, I make sure I document my case. So most likely dealing with them, I'm going to have to file an appeal. So I document my case, so when I file appeals, I have grounds for appeal. But you just can't. That's why I rarely take somebody else's case. And anytime, the one or two times I've done that, it hasn't really turned out good because there's a reason that attorneys drop clients, you know, because they're just not paying attention or listening. They figure they're smarter than the attorney and end up losing, walking away with nothing. But anyway, she what happened in that case? Of course, I couldn't help her, and she was in the courtroom representing herself. I said, well, if you're in there with a corporation matter, I said, where's your attorney? Well, I represented myself. So that was the first red flag, because if you're a corporation, you need to have an attorney. They will not, because a corporation is a separate entity, and you can't, if you're not an attorney, you can't represent that corporation. So that should have been a red flag right off the bat if the judge let you allegedly represent the corporation, because that's just not how it works. So what that means is that the judge viewed your corporation as not a corporation, and basically pierced the corporate veil, because you were not conducting that corporation as a corporation, but using that as your alter ego, as a personal bank account. So you violated the rules of incorporation, and that's why the person was held liable for the debts of the corporation. So we do things, I can't say you're not thinking. It's beyond not thinking, right? We think too highly of ourselves, and we think we can do things that we can't do. We think we're smarter than we really are, right? So this ministry here is to take us through that process and create a system where we have an understanding that sometimes we need to get professional advice, right? Okay, so let's see here. So when the majority of people, think like this, it's an otherwise obstruction of a healthy organism that should be functioning properly, and that's not functioning properly. When you think you're, and this is how our economy operates, with cash flow. And if you obstruct that system either by trying to do it yourself and losing completely, and you're being frustrated and mad and you did it to yourself, or taking your money out of the community and spending it elsewhere, and then when you lose, you come back, you don't cry about it. But if someone looked like you did it, you telling everybody in the neighborhood, that your uncles, nephews, I'll never go to that person again. But that doesn't happen when you you don't even make it to the outcome. You lose out because you run out of money and they just kick you to the curb, versus going to do business with somebody who's going to work with you. So we have a mental bias that we have to come over, right? It's not race specific. So I'm trying to be, as generic with this as possible. And I read white supremacist literature and gone to their websites, and I'm like, and I really don't see the difference between their community and our community. They just don't mention black people. The same problems, the same issues that they raise, we raise in our community. Like, wait a minute, there's no difference. The only difference I see is that they didn't mention black people. And even when I was first doing this a while back, and I used to go to Time Warner, they had studios where you can go in for different businesses. They can do a recording, they can do infomercials and stuff, there where you could, go in there and record it. And one gentleman, because I had my books and stuff packaged up, and because I've been doing this for a long time, and but now the technology has caught up where I can get it out there a lot cheaper than before. And he said, "Hey, man, he asked me what was my program about." And I told him, I said, "Listen," he said, "don't forget white people. We need that information too. We don't know that information. So you need to share that with everybody. Share that and I've kept that promise. And that's what I'm doing right now. So, and I try to keep it race neutral, but I can only speak from my perspective. And I know within our community, we keep talking about reparations, and I see poverty and despair. And this is a crucial, because we have less resources, and everybody's having a hard time trying to make ends meet and so forth. So we got this perception that one group is doing far much better than the other, but in the hierarchy of things, that may be true. But you got 150 million people that are above or below the poverty level, right? So we all need this information, and I hope you take it as such. So in both of these circumstances, we talk about blood clots in the body and blood clots in the economic system within our communities. These are both conditions that need intervention, and they need intervention to keep it from getting worse, right? In emergency medical terms, the blood flow, you need in the body, you need a blood thinner. You need intervention. You need a blood thinner to dilute the blood clots in order to prevent a stroke or heart attack, right? Because you got to have that blood flowing, and if that blood's not flowing, you're gonna have some problems in the body. So when it comes to individuals, the community, blood flow can be compared to cash flow. The individual's behavior is similar to a blood clot in the body because something is out of sync. Something is not working the way it's supposed to be working, right? Because I look at nature. You look at nature, and you look at the human body and how things flow and interconnect with one another. And to me, they're in harmony. They're in harmony. So if you look to nature, sometimes you can solve a lot of problems that you're having in your own life because you have to look how nature operates, how nature would handle a certain thing. And that just may be the Spirit of God intervening in your life and talking to you because you allowed yourself to open up those channels and not be so busy. If you're busy all the time and surfing the web and just running from here to there and spending 6 seconds on this or 6 seconds on that, there's no way that you can listen to the Spirit of God talking to you in order to give you that comfort and telling you what decision is a good decision and which decision is not. Right? So both situations are an emergency situation. And when it comes to individual, like I said, cash flow is like blood flow. This lack of cash flow is causing strokes and heart attacks in the community in the form of crime, poverty, depression, and despair, which conditions have been criminalized and which are merely symptoms of cash flow being obstructed by inappropriate behavior. And the inappropriate behavior is what we mentioned out before. I'd rather go to the hustler and pay him or her instead of taking it to a professional and doing things properly. But on the flip side of that, when they do come to the attorney and then they get a large sums of money, their life falls apart. Their marriages fall apart. They go crazy with the money. And they end up worse off than they were in the beginning, even though you try to counsel them through the process, prepare them to receive a lump sum of money. They just don't get it. So that's why this program is so important, to train up a child when they're young. Because it's hard to tell an adult what to do once they become so-called grown, because they caught up. And even young people when they get teenagers and so forth, and they feel that they just have to get money. I got to get money. I got to have money. I got to have money. So they make inappropriate choices that sabotages the rest of their life because they're trying to make that little bit of money. So I would ask young people, I say, hey man, he said, I got to get paid. I said, wait a minute now. There's only so much time in a day. It's called opportunity cost. And if you do this, you're not going to have time to do that. That's why you have to set goals and you do them in a sequential manner, right? because there's only so much